Hello and welcome to the Apple Insider Podcast. This is your host, Stephen Robles, and this week we have Apple Insider video producer, contributing editor, and does many of our reviews on the site, Andrew O'Hara. Is that right?
That is it, Andrew O'Hara.
Andrew O'Hara. Very cool. Thanks for joining me this week, Andrew.
Yeah, of course.
And we have some interesting news this week. I wanted to launch with, I think, some of the biggest news that we've seen, talking about the ARM-based Mac. So the actual news that came out this past week was Ming-Chi Kuo. He says that ARM Macs will be coming in the first half of 2021. And the actual quote is that Apple will be going to a 5-nanometer process in about 12 to 18 months' time. And Kuo believes there'll be a new 1H21 Mac equipped with its own design processor. So this is something that's been rumored for a long time. Obviously, Apple makes so many of its own chips now. I actually tried finding all the different kinds of chips that Apple makes right now. And they obviously make the A series for the iPhone and iPad. They make the S series chip for the watch, T series, the secure enclave chips, the W series for AirPods, the H series for some of the Beats and the AirPods Pro, and then the U1 wideband chip. So they are no strangers to making their own silicon, obviously. And so this is kind of exciting. This opens up a lot of possibilities for Apple. Again, practically it means that they could not be at the whims of Intel. They start developing their own silicon. And so it'd be really interesting to see. And I was thinking about it. Andrew, do you remember, I don't know how old you are actually, so we'll see if you actually remember this. Do you remember that PowerPC to Intel transition back early 2000s?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I do. I'm not that young. I do remember that.
Very good, yeah. Was your first Mac an Intel or a PowerPC? I was just curious.
It wasn't Intel. It was quickly after that. My dad was an engineer, and he was very much on like the Windows camp starting out. So I did have Windows PCs up till there, and then going through high school, I started to get into more video production stuff, web design and web development stuff, and being able to make it more approachable with iWeb and everything like that. So that was what made me get my original Mac, start doing initial web design and everything.
Yeah, man, I remember my first Mac was the 12-inch PowerBook, and it was the G4 processor that it was using. And so I remember that Intel transition. You know, one of the big questions then and now is emulation and how quick will applications like Microsoft Office and Adobe's Creative Cloud, how fast will they move to the ARM processor architecture, and how long will Apple have to do emulation? Will they at all? I frankly believe, they're going to have to do some kind of emulation at the beginning. They're not going to be able to sell a Mac that can't run the Adobe Creative Suite. How long they do the emulation remains to be seen. But this is why I think, I'd be curious your opinion on this too, but the first Mac that I think that will see this ARM chip from Apple, I think it has to be the MacBook Air. One of the benefits that's going to be from moving to ARM is battery life and, processor speed savings because of the way they'll be able to optimize everything. And so I feel like the MacBook Air will be the first one. This way it's not incumbent on pros to have to run like Photoshop and Premiere in an emulator, and that lightweight MacBook Air that so many people get because they like the battery life and portability, that would have to be, I would think, the first one, maybe the 13-inch MacBook Pro that would actually they'll move that first to the ARM chip. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I don't know. I was debating a lot about this before, actually, whether it was going to be the Air, kind of go with the lower end unit that's going to move a lot of units, but I know the MacBook Pros, aren't the MacBook Pros like the top selling laptop, or is it the Air? I can't even remember at this point.
I don't think Apple breaks it out super clearly, but it definitely, I think the MacBook Pro 13-inch, I think it is the kind of the most popular model.
Yeah. So I don't know if Apple would try to go with the most popular model to try to get it, out fast, which is, I think if more people have this, the faster we're going to see people transition, their apps and everything over. So that could be the strategy they go. But that actually brought me to my bigger question, which is when Apple is publicly going to talk about this, how much lead time are they going to give developers? Are we going to see something at WWDC the middle of this year? Because that gives them only, 6 to 8 months there sometime to start if that first one's going to land early next year. So yeah. I'm really curious on if we're going to see something about it now to get developers ready so they have time to start working on this, or if they're going to kind of just drop it as a surprise on devs, like really close to launch?
Yeah.
That was my bigger question on when we're actually going to hear something publicly.
I think Catalyst announced at the last WWDC is kind of the first steps to this move in the future. I can't imagine that they would announce anything at this year's WWDC if the product might not come out for another year and a half. I think we'll see some technologies, maybe some changes to the SDKs.
Well, they said 2021, right?
2021, right. But I mean, I could see Apple announcing an ARM Mac next WWDC, and then they say available this fall or something.
Okay, but according to Quo, wasn't it the first Mac should land to be in consumers' hand within the first 6 months of 2021, which means it would be before next year's WWDC.
Yeah, that is true. Well, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. They might actually, maybe they'll say something at this WWDC.
I mean, they're not going to have another chance really to talk specifically to developers and get them with engineers to start looking at it until next year. So this might be their only chance unless they hold something else or just go through press releases. But that seems for such a big transition, it seems like they need to let them know early.
Yeah, and that was even something I remember during the Intel switch. I mean, they had commercials that were talking about, what are these Intels doing in Macs? They really needed to get the word out there and blanket everybody with it. So you might be right. It might be something is said, at least architecture-wise, maybe something, an update to the Catalyst tools that developers have. So
yeah,
let's see. I'm excited for this transition, though. Again, Apple not having to wait on Intel for processor updates and releases would be great. Obviously, in the iPhone and iPad, Apple has been releasing new silicon every year.
It's crazy, yeah.
And they've been really keeping up.
And they're more powerful, than we look at, Android counterparts that are running, faster processor, more cores in their processors, and yet looking just at raw performance, the iPhones are still beating them with Apple's in-house design stuff. So it's crazy they're going to be able to have that control over on the Mac side. And the ARM processor should run at the same speeds. They should have lower heat. So we could theoretically see Apple lean into thinner machines with similar processing power, or they could stay the same but just bump up the power in a similar footprint. So it's interesting to see which way they're going to go with it.
Yeah, and I would also be curious what happens with GPUs, because right now, they talk about the GPUs built into the A13 Bionic or whatever other silicon they release. So yeah, would be really curious, is it only integrated GPU, and how do they work with GPU manufacturers to actually integrate that stuff into the new Macs? I find, looking at the Mac Pro that was just released, I feel like that particular Mac is a long time out from seeing a specific ARM chip and architecture. But that would be exciting too, if they really build server class, professional grade silicon for their Mac Pro, that would be incredible. I do want to give a prediction here. I was just looking at their lines, they got the A's, the W's, the T's. I'm thinking if they go to that ARM chip on the Mac, I'm thinking they just go straight M1 or M some number. Some number. I mean, I don't know what other letter. What do you think? Do they go to the different letter?
The only reason that I would not think M is that for some reason that makes me think of like metal and the graphic side of things, not processing.
That's true.
Like, I get it for Macs, it makes sense, but you also have like the graphics side. So if they end up going the graphics route, if they have something, independent in a Mac, or they're going to completely integrate it, that's a whole question. So it definitely could be M, but I don't know if they would go with something different just because of the GPU situation.
That's true. And I mean, they go with H, for the AirPods Pro. So it's not like it doesn't have to be related to the actual device. So we'll see. This is developing, and so we'll see in the next number of months in the WWDC what else comes out in the news for this ARM Macs. So I wanted to touch on iOS 13.4. The beta 3 came out this week. They've been releasing betas pretty regularly for this, so hopefully it'll be coming soon. Newest features that have been discovered in the latest beta is a possible internet recovery for iOS devices like iPhones and iPads, so you would not need a Mac to restore it. You can do it over the cloud, which is great. I'm looking forward to the Mail toolbar changes. We didn't talk about that last week, but in iOS 13, Apple removed the dedicated folder icon and flag icon in the stock Mail app, and those are supposedly coming back in iOS 13.4. But I don't know about you, I'm actually most excited to try the iCloud shared folders. I've been using iCloud Drive more and more, storing files there, using the Files app, at least trying to when it's not buggy. But I'm really curious how these shared folders work and how solid that is because I may consider dropping a Dropbox. I use Dropbox personally and for business, and it's pretty powerful. But again, the desktop app is just so kind of bloated right now. So I'm considering maybe moving to iCloud shared folders. Do you use iCloud Drive like that, or do you use a different cloud service for your main work stuff?
I mainly use iCloud Drive anymore.
Mm.
I've been using it more and more in probably recent years. I was originally using Dropbox, but it became, like you said, like just bloated and kind of ridiculous. So I transitioned away from that. I was using Amazon's cloud drive for a while. It wasn't the best, but they were giving away like unlimited storage, unlimited, capacity for like $60 a year or something.
Right.
And I was like, I'm all about that. Obviously, video production side of things, we deal with a lot of footage. So that was really enticing to me, but then they ditched that because probably people were abusing it a bit much.
Right.
I kind of went away from that, and now I've just been using iCloud Drive mostly because how integrated it is and how easy it is to use. But like you said, that biggest problem had been not being able to share those folders. That feature showed up with iOS 13 in the beta phase. They announced it, and then they pulled it before the public release.
Right.
And now it's back in this beta, and I am very excited because I run into it all the time because I literally have to go to Amazon or Google Drive or something else when I need to share a bunch of files, and it's kind of just an annoying pain point. And I really I know there's still some bugs and hiccups, and files on iOS is sometimes rocky, but this is coming a long way, and it's really getting close to completely replacing any of those other services for me.
Yeah, I agree. And I will say, as however buggy the iOS apps are, I mean, I've never experienced data loss, and nothing catastrophic has happened with it. I would love to see the web version of iCloud Drive be a little more robust, kind of a little more intuitive interface.
Load faster.
Yeah, load faster especially. And I would also love better like progress bars and for iCloud Drive to kind of let you know what it's doing in the background. You kind of have this nondescript pie whenever you put something in your documents or desktop and it's uploading to iCloud Drive, but it's always kind of unclear. And, can I force something to get uploaded right now and like take priority?
Exactly. And I want it to go faster as well.
Yeah.
Like it just, for some reason, oddly slows down. I'm like, what part is slowing you down? Because I'm on battery right now. Do I need to plug you in to go faster? I was recently working on a video and I needed to get a bunch of footage off my phone. And I thought the best way would just be drop an iCloud Drive. It shows to my Mac a few minutes later, all good. But it ends up being like 8 gigs of files that I had created on my phone. And it was uploading ridiculously slow, and I'm on the Wi-Fi 6 and everything, and my upload speeds should not be that slow, and I don't know why it was slow or why it wasn't going right away. It's not all apparent. I understand Apple's need to simplify and make it so you don't have to worry about things, but for those who kind of need it to, I'm like, what's going on? What's happening? What's the bottleneck?
Right.
Anything. Can someone give me some feedback?
And also, like, when I was trying to open a Pages document on my Mac, and it was in iCloud. It was not downloaded locally yet. But from Pages, if you just try to open the document directly from the open dialog in Pages, there's not like a forced download option. It grays out the file name, and you can't do anything with it. I actually had to open Finder, find the document, and tell it to force download. And so just little tweaks like that, hopefully they can iron those things out. But I would love to just, I already pay so much for iCloud Drive for the whole family to share, and I have all the space on there. I would love to transition away from Dropbox and all those other kind of options. So we'll see if this iOS 13.4 and updates to Catalina will help it make it a little bit more solid and usable.
I agree. I'd also like to kind of see more storage for iCloud Drive.
Yeah.
Right, 2 terabytes is the max, which isn't bad, but I would kind of like to maybe double that. I'm pretty sure I'm at least halfway through my storage at the moment, and I know it's just going to keep growing. So I'm hoping that they get to add some additional tiers, because I would for sure pay more.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I have my entire family iCloud filled. So I have 6 people on it, 6 iCloud accounts. And so with all the device backups and photo library backups, yeah, it's definitely getting eaten up. So for sure, I would definitely pay for more storage if I could drop Dropbox and all that. If you own your own business or you're a freelancer, one of the most important things you can do is automate those tasks that you do all the time. Whether it's posting a blog to social media or automating something in your Slack channel, one of the best tools you can use for these kinds of tasks is Zapier. Zapier is a website and a service that allows you to plug into so many different applications and websites and software that you can automate so many different things for your personal business, for social media, or even just for fun. I'll give you a couple examples that I use Zapier for personally. I have several podcasts that post a new episode weekly, and I always want to post those episodes on social media, on Twitter and on Facebook. And I like to post them with the right image and with the title of the episode, maybe even an emoji in the post. And Zapier makes it so easy because it can integrate with any RSS feed that you have, whether it's a podcast, maybe it's a blog that you write, and you can have Zapier take your RSS feed, and whenever you post something new, create a custom post with the text that you want and to have the title displayed like you want and the custom link. And you can have Zapier do that automatically. So when you post your blog or podcast, it gets shared to social media without you even having to think about it. I also use Slack, and I'm in several different channels. And Zapier integrates with Slack and so many other tools that you can automate things into a specific Slack channel. Let's say that you work on a video team or you work with several video producers. You can have it so that every time a video is posted to a specific YouTube channel or playlist, then a link to that video can be automatically posted inside a Slack channel via Zapier. Zapier will work in the background and do all that for you. It's the easiest way to automate your work, and it connects with all your business software and handles everything for you so you can focus on the things that matter most, whether it's being creative or leading a team. So don't waste your time on tasks that could be automated. That's exactly what Zapier was built to do. So go to our special link, Zapier, that's zapier.com/AppleInsider, and you can connect the apps you use most and let Zapier take it from there. You can engage with leads, send them to a CRM application or even a Google Sheet or other spreadsheet, and then notify your team that there's a new lead so they can act fast on every opportunity. Zapier supports more than 1,500 business applications, and the possibilities are virtually endless. Best of all, it's easy to build the exact solution you need in minutes without writing any code or asking a developer for help. More than 4.5 million people, including myself, are saving an average of 40 hours per month by using Zapier. So right now through the end of the month, try Zapier for free by going to our special link, zapier.com/AppleInsider. That's zapier.com/AppleInsider for your free 14-day trial. Once again, go to zapier.com/AppleInsider to try it. Our thanks to Zapier for sponsoring this show. So I wanted to touch on Mac Pro. There was some Mac Pro news this past week. Apple actually released white papers for the Mac Pro and the Pro Display XDR. And I don't know if you got a chance to look at these PDFs, but they are some extensive PDFs talking about the hardware. Now, you actually have a Mac Pro on hand. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm sitting right next to it right now.
Yeah, and I actually have a Mac Pro that I use at work, so I've been able to have some experience with it. I know forthcoming, you're going to talk about the Mac Pro in depth and kind of just day-to-day use. But for those maybe considering getting a Mac Pro or just kind of more interested in how you can configure it, these white paper PDFs are actually pretty useful. They even have configuration suggestions. So if you actually go down in that PDF and you want to get a machine that's geared towards video editing, maybe specifically geared towards development, if you're an app developer, even like science, tech, and research, Apple actually gives you some suggested configurations all the way down to the graphics card, how much memory you should use, the storage, and all that kind of stuff. So they're actually pretty interesting. If you're interested in getting a Mac Pro, I would take a look at these white papers, and they're just interesting to kind of browse through. They even talk about some third-party accessories like the Belkin lock adapter for Mac Pro. And so if you need a way to secure your machine someplace, you can get that. I didn't know that even existed. And so they actually link to the Belkin thing there. So pretty cool there. And the same thing for the Pro Display XDR. They have lots of info there. Also, the other news was that Apple will soon let Mac Pro owners install their own wheels. So, this is kind of funny. First of all, it was hilarious, the predictions about how much the wheels were going to cost leading up to the Mac Pro launch.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I would have guessed, but the wheels, if you don't know, the wheels alone are a $400 addition if you buy the Mac Pro. Did you get the wheels? Just curious.
No, I did not get the wheels. I didn't have a need for the wheels.
Yeah.
If you're especially if you're using this for on-set production or anything like that, the wheels are going to be just extremely useful, being able to move it around so much easier. I mean, it has the handles on top, so it's still relatively easy to move, but I can see the wheels being beneficial. I guess if you're looking at that high-end Mac Pro, the addition of the wheels is not going to move the needle all that much.
Right, exactly. And it was kind of funny. MKBHD actually did a full review of the Mac Pro, but he showed the wheels, and he's like, if you're going to be using this in a stationary area or on a desk, you do not want the wheels because the wheels do not lock. And I thought that was an interesting point. You'd have to put like wheel chucks under them or just shove something under those wheels to prevent it from rolling. So, they very rolly. I don't know how else you would say it, but if you're using
very smooth, they're very
they're $400 smooth wheels on this. So yeah, if you're on a desk, you definitely want to do it. But I would hope to have the option, if you move this thing around or maybe use it on a desk most of the time and you take it elsewhere, to be able to take the wheels on and off would definitely be useful. So supposedly that is coming and they'll sell a kit to do that. But overall, tell me, just your overall experience kind of using the Mac Pro. I assume you're using Final Cut to edit videos and all that. Just high level, like how's it been? What are your thoughts on it?
It's still early on for me. We're still kind of in the transition phase of just moving workflow to the Mac Pro. So I'm coming from a 2016 MacBook Pro, which was a little bit, aging already. So it already had, especially when it came to doing some motion graphics and stuff, I started to notice a lot of hiccups. So just from the super high level point of view, the model that we're equipped with now, which I'm pretty sure is one of the base models here, it's already doing better than what I was used to. But that is not reason enough alone to go for this. Any newer Mac would have shown signs of improvement. But we're looking at which ways to move storage right now. I'm on a 20 terabyte, let's see, Thunderbolt 3 drive and an eGPU and stuff like that. So we're looking at moving more of that internally with Mac Pro, cleaning up desk area and improving performance at the same time. So I've been very happy with it. It's great. It works really well. I haven't had any hiccup thus far, but I need to spend a lot more time working on optimizing it for my actual use to get a good idea on, how much this is worth it versus another MacBook Pro or something else.
Yeah, for sure. Now, you don't have a Pro display with you as well, do you?
No. Currently, I'm using a new BenQ monitor review forthcoming, but just a new model they just launched, which looks very nice, but not the Pro Display XDR. I would love it, but that is such a hard thing to justify. I've been saying it 30 million times, but I want Apple to have... I'm glad they're focusing on the Pro market, but that prosumer market would also love some love, and not be forced to go with the kind of fugly LG monitors that are out there. I still have an Apple Thunderbolt 3 display here in the studio. I would love even just a slightly more modern version of that. Anything, honestly, like take an iMac and take out the
computer part
and just leave me with that, and I'd be happy. I would buy that in a heartbeat. So I would really like to see an Apple prosumer display, not kind of these third-party options that have been very hit or miss.
Yeah, absolutely. And that we're not the first ones to say it. And a lot of people suggested this, but that iMac 5K screen is great. It's just a great screen. And it's hilarious. The 27-inch iMac starts at $1,800. And I feel like if they straight up sold a display, that 27-inch with 5K, just like it is on that iMac, for the $1,800, it would sell.
Yeah.
And that's a monitor that I would be interested. You put some Thunderbolt 3 ports on the back of the monitor, good to go. Like, I would for sure get something like that.
The speakers were pretty solid on those. I would take the speakers, add some Thunderbolt 3 ports. I am happy. I will buy that any day. $1,500, $1,800. That seems like a respectable price point, considering even though you're losing, the iMac portion of that. Right. So I would hope it would be less, so I don't have to pay as much. But I could see myself being convinced pretty easily to shell out for that.
And I think you used to be able to use an iMac as a display. That was actually a built-in option way back on the iMacs. I don't think they allow you to do it first party anymore. You'll be able to kind of hack around to do it. But it would be nice if they just sold a display.
It would be great.
Have you looked at your wireless bill lately? Honestly, you're probably paying too much. It's 2020. Network coverage is better than ever, no matter your wireless provider. So why pay more for the same service? I want to tell you about Mint Mobile. is an online wireless carrier. It can cut your wireless bill down to just $15 a month for premium coverage. $15 a month with unlimited talk and texting, and you pay for the data that you need. I've experienced Mint Mobile with my iPhone 11 Pro, and it's working great. I still get the same fast LTE data speeds and the same service and coverage that I had before with one of the other wireless carriers. Other wireless carriers have to pay for expensive retail stores and overhead. That's why Mint Mobile has reimagined how you buy wireless, and they make it all online, and they pass the savings directly to you. Mint Mobile makes it easy to cut your wireless bill down to just $15 a month. And again, every plan comes with unlimited nationwide talk and text, plus crazy fast 4G LTE. Use your own phone that you have and keep the same phone number and contacts that you already have. Again, I'm using it with my iPhone 11 Pro, and I came from one of those other guys. If you're not 100% satisfied, Mint Mobile has you covered with their 7-day money-back guarantee. And just as a side note, actor Ryan Reynolds, yes, the guy who played Deadpool, decided to become an owner of Mint Mobile. So get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month, and the SIM card will ship right to your door for free. Go to mintmobile.com/AppleInsider. That's mintmobile.com/AppleInsider. Cut your wireless bill to just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/AppleInsider. Our thanks to Mint Mobile for sponsoring this show. All right, so let's do a lightning round. Some of the other topics that came out this past week. This actually came out last Saturday, so we didn't get a chance to cover it on last week's podcast, but there was these Target inventory pictures that were taken, not screenshots, it's like a picture of the employee system, and they showed a new Apple AirPods X generation sold for $399, possibly an over-the-ear version of AirPods. So let me ask you this. Do you actually have a pair of AirPods Pro?
I have all the AirPods, all of them. I had the original. I jumped on the chance to pay again for the wireless charging, the small improvements on the second generation.
Yes.
And then, of course, I went to the AirPods Pro. I use these things religiously, and I'm just a huge AirPods fan in general. So I was like, what? AirPods news? Say again? Go again? What was that?
Yeah, same. I'm in the same boat. I've had every model, and I use the AirPods Pro now. You know, it's funny. I actually still go back and forth. For some situations, I want the AirPods Pro. For others, I still actually use those Gen 2 AirPods, especially if I'm like walking around outside. I know you can do transparency mode on the AirPods Pro, and I do that, but something about actually hearing the real ambient noise is just something I still prefer sometimes. So I like being able to go back and forth, but these are interesting. So over the ear, possible AirPods Pro, and rumors of an AirPods Pro Lite, which makes a little less sense. I mean, I guess there'd be more just kind of like the AirPods Gen 2, but maybe with in-ear silicone tips.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. But tell me, how do you think you'd be interested in the over-the-ear kind of AirPods Pro?
I think it's going to depend on what we get with over-the-ear AirPods X or whatever, Studio Pods, or whatever names that are out there. Because we already do have, the Beats line, the Studio Beats that have, the same wireless connectivity. They still have Apple's custom chips in there.
Chip, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't remember which one they had, the W ones or the H chips. I think the H chips are the ones on the new AirPods Pro.
Right, yes.
But essentially the same thing. I mean, obviously, like that chip isn't going to be the differentiator here. So I want to know what else would make these, the Apple branded ones versus the Beats ones. The Beats Studio ones are already very subdued for the Beats brand of everything, and I can see a lot of pros already do go to those for their studio headphones. So I'm wondering where these Apple ones are going to fall into that lineup, how they're going to differentiate themselves with features from the Beats side, because Apple they come out with the AirPods and they bring all those AirPods features over to the Beats side of things. So are they going to come out with something different for their over-the-ear ones that they'll then bring back to the Beats side? Are they going to bring anything from the Studio Beats? Because Apple hasn't done an over-the-ear headphones like this before. So I don't know what to expect. I probably will want them.
Right.
I will. I still use on my desk, I still use over-the-ear headphones a lot of times.
Right.
There's a need, but I don't know what they're going to specifically do. We haven't actually heard very many specifics other than it will go over your ear. That's
right. Yeah, I'd be interested, especially for the audio editing portion. Again, editing podcasts and stuff like that. I might prefer those over the ears just for comfort and sound quality. There's still a bit of lag when you're using even AirPods and an iPad, especially. So if you're trying to edit, you really notice that. If you're just watching a movie, it's not really noticeable.
It happens on the Mac as well. I mean, when I'm editing in Final Cut, that's one of the reasons why I can't use AirPods, is because there is that subtle delay. So I'm trying to, do a voiceover or something like that. I can't do it. I have to stick with wired headphones. So as long as these things especially have a wired option, I'd be pretty intrigued.
Yeah. So curious, that might be something that's coming out soon. Another quick article I wanted to touch on. I thought this was hilarious. So Rian Johnson, the director, he directed The Last Jedi, and he also directed Knives Out, recently released movie.
Great movie.
So, and there's a little bit of a spoiler in that movie because of this news. So if you don't want a spoiler for Knives Out, maybe skip to the next chapter so you don't hear this. But Rian Johnson, in a Vanity Fair interview, said this very interesting fact about Apple. And he said Apple will let you use iPhones in your movies. And obviously we see Apple devices in movies. We see them in a ton of TV shows. It's always hilarious. You can tell if a TV show is just Samsung sponsored or if Apple allows their devices. And he said you can use Apple devices in the movie, but the quote is, quote, Apple, they let you use iPhones in movies, but this is very pivotal. If you're ever watching a mystery movie, bad guys cannot have iPhones on camera. Rian Johnson continues, quote, every single filmmaker who has had a bad guy in their movie that's supposed to be a secret wants to murder me right now, end quote. I thought this was so interesting. I think this is the first time we're hearing about this specifically, but I just think it's hilarious that Apple will not allow villains or quote unquote bad guys in movies to use iPhones. I had no idea about this.
No, I had no idea. We've seen Apple's product placement is legendary in the movie business. It's crazy. We see it even more with, Apple TV Plus and everything. I am so curious about that. So one, what happens with Apple's own productions of, its shows where they're exclusively using iPhones and Apple devices? Are they all of a sudden villains won't have cell phones at all because they don't want to feature other devices? And then two, is Apple going to change their stance here? Because if you know that, I'm going to have such a hard time, especially doing what we do, being in the Apple space. I immediately notice when someone's using an iPhone just out of habit, I guess.
Yeah.
And now I feel like every movie I'm going to watch now is going to be ruined forever.
Right.
Just seeing this, I'm like, well, that guy's using a crappy Android. He must be the bad guy.
Right. Exactly.
Ugh.
I don't know if you're a mystery movie filmmaker. I don't know. After Rian Johnson lets this out, I don't know if you could do that.
You might have to not use phones or iPhones at all. Have to go to Android.
You have to use all Windows Mobile, mobile phones. It's the only way to do it. But, I was curious about Apple's original content. For All Mankind, they get a pass because it takes place in the past. C, doesn't have anything. The morning show, I don't know if you could say there's an actual villain or not. But
that's what I was going to ask too, is how do you know what constitutes a villain? Do you have to give a script over to Apple and let them mark good guy, bad guy across it all?
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of, middle ground on who is a bad guy versus a good guy versus just a jerk, or, where where that line is on if they're allowed to use an iPhone.
I think this is why Thanos didn't have an iPhone. That's probably why right here.
I think so.
Yeah, I'll be super curious now in future movies. I think everyone will be watching now who's got the iPhone.
Especially movies that are already in production. It'll be the ones that are coming out just now that are going to be ruined, and then everyone's going to have to pivot.
Exactly. This episode is also brought to you by Pork Bun. If you haven't heard of Pork Bun before, it's a top-level domain registrar where you can get website domains for your business or personal brand with low prices, and they have amazing free services and support. And they actually have a special deal for Apple Insider listeners. You can actually go to porkbun.com right now and get a free .design domain when you use the coupon code AppleInsider. And just like .com or .org, you can use the .design top-level domain for anything you would like, for your website, for your custom email address, or to forward to a website of your choosing. And they're giving our listeners a free .design domain for an entire year. So head to porkbun.com and use the coupon code AppleInsider at checkout to get a year free of your .design domain. It also comes with free email hosting, Whois privacy, and SSL certification. So go ahead and go to porkbun.com and use the coupon code AppleInsider for that free .design domain for an entire year. Our thanks to Pork Bun for sponsoring Apple Insider. Another thing I wanted to mention, you actually viewed one of the first HomeKit-enabled security cameras, and now the Netatmo indoor security camera is now HomeKit-enabled, and you did a great video review. It's on AppleInsider.com, and we'll link to it in show notes, obviously. But your overall impressions, pretty good in your experience using it?
I think this one's awesome. This is an amazing camera. It has a higher price tag, so getting that out like in the door front, like first, like it is more expensive than other ones. But the lengths that Netatmo has gone through to make this such a good camera, I'm very impressed with. I'm a huge fan of a lot of camera makers. The Logitech Circle 2s have been very solid. Right. Indoor, outdoor, lots of accessories to go with them. They were, I think, the first to support HomeKit Secure Video. I guess so. Technically in beta, so whatever you want to count that with. So maybe this is the first one to actually like officially support it, but that was a thing. So those have been great, but they're still kind of plasticky and have other quips with them, like subscription plans going through Logitech if you don't use Secure Video. We have the Arlo cameras. I love them. They've been adding HomeKit support a lot to their past cameras. We just saw the Arlo Pro 3s getting HomeKit support, not Secure Video, but just HomeKit support, so that's positive. But again, you have a lot of features that are taken away until you're paying for that subscription. And as subscription bloat becomes more apparent, as more apps are moving that way, as there's more streaming services, the fact that we have to add another couple dollar subscription or something is just, it can be frustrating, and you sometimes don't even want to do it just out of...
You just don't want to pay for that many subscriptions. I mean,
you just don't want to do it. So like the fact that Netatmo designed this from the ground up to not have a subscription is admirable. And they've done a lot for security and privacy. So even when you're signing up for a Netatmo account, you don't have to provide your phone number, address, full name, all that kind of information that a lot of people probably don't want to share anyway. To an outside company. They don't sell any of the anonymized data that they do collect. You have full control over what data they have, and then everything that is stored as far as your video is local. So there's no Netatmo cloud servers with all of your video on there that could potentially be hacked into. Everything is stored local on a micro SD card, or you can use your own FTP server, or you can actually use Dropbox. So you have a lot of different options to store that video, and now with HomeKit Secure Video support, you can use that as well. So you can just tie that right into your iCloud. It's entirely encrypted, and you're already paying for your iCloud storage. So as far as what you're getting with this, you're getting iCloud with a 200 gig plan, lets you connect one camera and you get 10 days of video history. And then with the 2 terabyte plan, you get 10 days of video history for up to 5 cameras. Now that is a hard limitation. So there is no, outside of that, there is no 6th camera that you can add with Secure Video. We talked earlier in the show, like, we want more iCloud storage space. I want more camera capacity as well. I know some homes are not going to need more than 5 cameras on HomeKit Secure Video, but I think there's a lot of places in my house. My house is kind of oddly shaped, so I'm like, okay, I have like my front doorbell camera that I want on there. I want my backyard from 2 different angles on there. I want an indoor camera to watch, the dogs and everything happens inside, and I want one near my studio and one towards my basement because we have a split level home where people can come in from the top, from the front or back, or downstairs from the front or back. Plus you have garage or something that some people may want to cover. I think there are situations where people are going to want more than 5 cameras, and that's a hard limitation right now. But the good news is all that storage, you can record, 24 hours a day for those 10 days on 5 cameras. None of that counts towards your iCloud storage. So if you have a 2 terabyte plan there with those 5 cameras, it doesn't eat into all that 2 terabytes. That's actually just on top of your 2 terabytes of storage. So that's really beneficial. Going back to Netatmo, they did a good job implementing it. I haven't really had any issues as far as HomeKit goes. It's been very solid. Everything is showing up in the app, but they've done a really good job on that privacy side, on letting you control everything, adding no subscriptions there. The design is very nice, simple, aluminum. I like it a lot.
That's awesome. And so it's about $200, about like $190 on Amazon right now for the indoor.
Mm-hmm.
So did you say the storage is in addition to your 2 terabytes, or does it actually eat at your iCloud storage?
It's addition to.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
So I don't have to worry about my 10 days of recording eating into that 2 terabytes.
Exactly. You already have your family and their iPhone backups and their photo backups. You're bumping up against 2 terabytes. Adding these cameras is not going to touch that at all. This is all additional storage. You get up to 10 days of storage for 5 cameras on the 2 terabyte plan.
That's awesome. And so honestly, I'm a Canary user. I have a couple Canary
Mhm.
cameras, and I've been really happy with them. They're great cameras and stuff, but it definitely is a monthly fee. And so, yeah, really entertaining this possibility.
I liked Canary as well, and I had Canary for a number of years. We reviewed, I had the original one. I actually backed it from their crowdfunding campaign.
Mm.
And as far as crowdfunding campaigns go, they have done an excellent job. I loved seeing them grow, coming out with the Flex and the lower cost camera. All has been great, but their AI has always been kind of iffy on detection. Like I constantly would get alerts on my Apple Watch of like it detected something specific, and it's literally like clearly a cat or other things like that,
Right.
or that are just really wrong.
Yeah.
And it constantly seemed to happen. So that was the thing that I noticed with the Canary. This camera, the Natama one, it has a lot better AI. It actually can recognize people's faces. So it'll recognize me and my wife. It's kind of funny. I'll walk in the door and I'll get an alert. I'll look down and the camera's like, welcome home. And like little things like that. And then when it recognizes people, you can have it turn off recording and everything, or live view, everything like that. So you don't have to worry about privacy. If it sees you, then it completely, turns off the camera essentially. And then if it sees other people, it can record. So I like that. And not only from a security of, just smart home point of view, but think about parents who have kids who maybe want to know that their kid got home from school or something. Yeah. This allows them to literally get a specific notification, not just when the door was unlocked or the door was opened, but that the camera saw your child.
Yeah.
Like that's a little bit more comforting about it. Or if you're a caregiver to, an aging relative or something, being able to know what's going on there, make sure that they're at home and they're about, and, someone that you don't know came in or that they went out and they weren't supposed to be, just keeping some kind of idea on that. It's another, being able to recognize faces, I think is a huge deal, and being able to get personalized alerts based on that, based on time of day. They have done a really good job for that. I saw a lot of people saying, oh, I'd rather get, the Wise cameras for $20 or $40 something. And I cannot see myself doing it. They've had so many data breaches with those, cheaper cameras. The video quality is not nearly as good. The notification bloat is insane. Even on Canary, I got so many excess notifications that I would stop bothering to look at them. I'm like, oh, this actually happened to me. This is a true story. And I read about it in the Canary review. I kept getting notifications about, a person or something in my house, and I was like, oh, this is nothing. Like, we were on the road, we had left 2 hours ago for a road trip 6 hours away, and I just kept seeing it on my watch, and I'm like, just go away, Canary. My wife happened to look, and she's like, wait, what was that? And she looks again. One of our pet bunnies had escaped from its cage and was running around the house.
Oh my goodness.
And I had just completely ignored the notification because they had been sending me, it just kept saying like there's a person or something, and I'm like, these aren't even right. Like, I get these all the time. It's probably just a cat or something. I just completely ignored it. And I'm like, holy crap, I needed to actually look at that. And I didn't even do it because the notifications they send so often, I was just going past them. So if I had a camera like the Natama one that'll only alert you when it sees someone it doesn't know or something out of the ordinary, you don't get that bloat. And when you do get a notification, you know it's something you need to pay attention to.
Well, I'm probably going to check it out. You can see the link in show notes to Andrew's review and the article and where you can get into Tatmo. It's pretty cool. And the final piece of information, I mean, obviously there was a lot of news this week, but did want to mention, Disney CEO Bob Iger actually stepped down as CEO. And ironically, another Bob has taken over. Bob Chapek, who was over all the Disney parks, is now acting CEO effective immediately. And this was not something totally out of the blue. They had talked about a succession plan recently. So not totally, again, unexpected, but definitely interesting, especially after the huge success of Disney Plus and all that kind of stuff. But Bob Iger is sticking around. He will be working on some of the creative projects, which he said, again, some of the content for Disney Plus and some of the mergers that have been happening. So he's still around, but stepped down as CEO.
I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. We did see them talking about, I think he wrote in his book that his contract was extended through 2021 or something to get Disney Plus out the door. So people saw it as, okay, he got Disney Plus out the door. He's free to retire now.
All right, well, you can find Andrew on Twitter. We'll put his links there. You should definitely subscribe to the AppleInsider YouTube channel where you see a lot of Andrew's reviews and videos there. Is there anything else that you'd like to point people to, Andrew, if they want to get in contact with you?
No, really, find me on Twitter, Andrew_OSU. That'll be linked in the notes. But otherwise, just make sure you check out the YouTube channel and let us know if there's anything that you want us to be covering on that channel. We've got a lot of exciting stuff coming out throughout the year, as we have, sounds like a busy March for Apple, as well as, the dev conference in the summer and everything this fall. It's going to be a busy year for our YouTube channel. So make sure you stay tuned to that, get everything, as soon as we get it.
Awesome. And again, you can tweet at me at Stephen Robles, and all the links to the articles we talked about and social media, our YouTube channel, everything will be in show notes. And we're really fleshing those out. So check out the show notes and you can find everything there. Thanks again for joining us at Apple Insider. We'll see you next week.